Welcome to the Economic and Community Development meeting. If we could go around and introduce ourselves, please.
Councilwoman Ortiz, I represent District 3.
Sandra Clear, District 2.
Karen Hiller, District 1.
Corey Wright, Department of Neighborhood Relations.
Sasha Hahn, Department of Neighborhood Relations.
Rochelle Vega Rotana, Neighborhood Relations.
Nick Hawkins, Finance.
Okay. First thing on our agenda is elect a chairperson, and I would really like to say, I just now understand this. So I would appreciate the opportunity to stay chairperson again, because I'm just now getting it. But it's up to you.
I move to nominate Councilwoman Clear as chairperson.
I accept.
I don't have a problem with that. I would just ask that we work with everybody's schedules. I do work, and I know that you guys are not working. And like we shifted this, and it was a really fast shift, and it was kind of hard for me to readjust my schedule. So
Sure.
just keep that, be mindful of that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so approval of the minutes from November 8th. I do have a correction. I think it's the paragraph that starts Councilmember Emerson. Second page. Are you following me, Ms. 20? Okay. And it says that handle vulnerable citizens. Should be vulnerable. Automatic spell check there. Any changes, additions, deletions?
Madam Chair, since I was not a member of this committee and neither was Councilwoman Ortiz, I think that we had advice from legal some time ago that where minutes were being approved by the council itself or later, I mean, I certainly would have to trust your judgment that these were accurate. So I would move that these be accepted to file.
Okay.
I mean, I can't approve them because I wasn't here.
Okay.
Accepted to file, if that's acceptable for staff. Okay.
Is that okay with you, Councilmember Ortiz?
Absolutely.
Okay.
With the typographical change as suggested.
Okay, then they will be filed. All right, we have the applications for the grants for 2019 have been scored, and that's what you have in front of you. Last year, it was decided that we would fund 89%, anyone that got an 89% on their score and above, and they could ask for $25,000, except for two agencies that were grandfathered in with the amounts that they had. With that being said, this shows all the agencies that received an 89 or above. And the way I looked at this from compared to last year, they're all getting, I think the funding formula really worked. I think they actually are going to receive more money this year. There's no reduction. We'll be able to fund 18 agencies. So all we need to approve are the agencies that got an 89 and above. And then their percentage of the grant is based on that score. Would you like to add anything, staff?
Sounds good.
So that's what we're here to do today, is just approve this funding.
As somebody who's not been on this committee for 3 years, we're talking about going 0 to 100, not even 0 to 60 here, pretty fast. I was involved, to speak for myself, in the council when the recommendations from last year's committee came through. But I am looking at, and you gave us a refresher on a couple of points. I'm looking at under emergency aid at agencies whose names I recognize as regularly have been being funded, but with only a 70-point goal for their scores, and I'd like to know a little more about that. Also, in the past couple of years, we've used panels of experts, and I think a panel was used this year, but I think it would be helpful for us as a committee, as well as anybody else, to know who they were when they met. I didn't think we were going to get this today. I thought this was an organizational meeting, and I looked at my timetable, and it sounded like the scores were only supposed to come in this morning. So just a little background on how the process went. And
I have some concerns about naming the reviewers. I don't want to set them up for having agencies calling them.
even if we had a team, just to clarify
Right.
kind of how this.
But maybe not the names.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, there's 4.
That's fine.
Okay.
Just a little, little backfill here.
Sure. So a few things. Most of this was decided last year, the 25,000, as Councilwoman Clear stated, except for the 2 agencies, which are Shawnee Medical Society and Positive Connections, which we kind of grandfathered in at 50,000 and 35,000 respectively. On the score sheet, if you look at the green highlighted boxes where there's zeros, those were on past grant administration and outcomes on prior grants. Those are the 2 categories that staff scores based off of reports that come in, end of the year reports, and also whether or not they're timely with their reports and accurate with their reports. The reason why those are green is because they are still spending their 2017 funds, and we were using the 2017 as the baseline on whether or not they were efficient in their past grant administration or outcomes on their prior grants. So that's why we weighted the score at 70 instead of 100, because we don't have the 2017 end of the year results. The reason why they're still spending the 2017 is because we received our CDBG allocation in probably July or August of the year last year, and so they got their contracts after we received that allocation, which allows them to spend. Yeah, it was considerably late last year. The yellow is people that, let me double check here. They had no 2017 grant, so we had no grant history on them. So that's what the yellow highlighted boxes are. Orange, okay. It looks yellow on my screen. Sorry about that.
And there is that key down below that.
Yes. So, and I'll take any other questions that you might have about that.
I might mention, leaving it at 89%, funding these that got over, will leave us, Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, right at what we spent last year, right? Maybe 7,000?
Yeah, with the total funding approved for 18, if you take out those, I think the contractual items that were removed, it was about 407,000, maybe a little bit. It was right at 407,000. So this would be slightly below that.
Right. So really, this formula really worked, I feel. Didn't bump us up and fund some agencies.
If I may, Madam Chair. I haven't been on this committee probably for 8 years, and I know a lot has changed in 8 years. I won't approve this today. I would like to work with staff and come back at another time till I feel comfortable. I feel like, here it is, do it. I understand we've changed the formula, and I understand that the plan has changed remarkably since 4 years ago. And so I want to understand it a lot better before I approve it. I'm not saying don't approve it, but you won't get it from me, because I really want to understand what we're doing. And some of what we've done, I don't like grandfathering anything in. I don't think that's fair to anybody. And I know I've always raised the question of, what about the new kid on the block that comes through? So I want to make sure that I agree with this scoring process. So I'd like to make a motion to come back at another time.
And that's okay, except that's not what this meeting's for. This meeting is to okay the numbers. Our next meeting is when we change and update.
How can
and-
I okay the numbers when I don't understand the process?
Well, the process is right here. I don't know what you don't understand. They were each graded on each one of these outcomes.
And I
there's
would
a
like to
score.
know why there's certain ones that didn't get the score, and why, and then you're saying we're not gonna do that here, so I would like time to do that, to go through every single one and know why it wasn't graded, what happened, because we're gonna have questions of why I didn't, or I'll have questions of why I didn't approve this, that, or the other. So to have a
But
first.
I'm sorry, but we don't, it's the reviewers that scored, unless we're
I
going
would
to
like to
disagree
talk to
with the.
them. I would like to talk to them and see how they came to that. It's a new process, Sandra. We didn't do this before.
Okay,
It's a brand-
Sylvia,
it's a
we
brand
can
new.
do that
It's a
for
new,
you.
brand new process.
Okay.
I think that if, I appreciate that. Again, I haven't seen it at all. So the schedule for the series this year, and originally anyway, said that we would meet to review the scoring and recommendations the week of May 14th. So if we wanted to review these and ask whatever questions, then, and then reconvened that week, we'd still be on time in terms of getting these reported out. Is that correct?
Your kind of drop dead date to make a recommendation for the 2019 budget would be, remind me, Nick, the first week of June, first council meeting in June.
Didn't we schedule this meeting today because you're leaving on vacation and I'm going to be gone and there was no other time?
The discussion that I recall was that we didn't even have a chair of the committee, hadn't done any committee orientation with the background and preparation for the process, and that in order to do that, have a meeting prior to the week of the
See,
May 14th,
when I
we needed to
joined-
have a first meeting, so that's what I recall.
When I joined, I didn't get that. So I guess,
Well-
I didn't even know that existed. I was just brought on when you were chair, I was just brought on and I had to figure it out myself. So I apologize that that's something that was supposed to be done because I didn't get that when I joined.
That's what I recall of our conversation, was that we would need to have a meeting in April just to get the committee formed up and to get briefed on the process in order to meet the time schedule, and have already met once, so.
Well, so are there any dates, though? If you're going to be gone, are we going to be able to squeeze this in before
The week of the
deadline?
May 14th, I'm available. I just wasn't going
I
to be
don't think
available
I
right
am.
before that, so.
Update. The first week of June is actually the date that the budget office is planning to bring you all the proposed budget. So if we wait until then they'll be plugging a number, which I'm assuming would probably be the same as this year. So in order to make your recommendation get in the number crunching, we need to be by that last meeting in May, which would be,
22nd?
okay.
I would not think that there would be any change in the budgeted amounts, which is what they need for the budget. The individual allocations are kind of within that number,
Okay.
right? So the allocations per se aren't significant to going forward with the budget.
Well, we have to approve it, though.
Well,
But you just said it was the same.
if it's,
Right.
if it's an approved budget number,
This is the same.
The same as last year's, right?
The dollar amount
Unless
is
you were
within
in-
$8,000.
I mean, and the council voted on that already. I mean, you're working within the parameters that the council voted on in January,
Right.
whatever it was, to say, you know, with the recommendations from last year's committee, the council voted to say, this will be the parameters for next year, and this is how much money we would recommend moves forward back in January.
Except what if we don't agree with that and we want to change it to 80 and we want to raise the amount?
Well, that could change at any point, but obviously, we wouldn't do that unless we've had a chance to consider them.
I know, but then you can't just say, so the numbers might change. We have another meeting set for May 11th.
Okay. I thought we had figured it all out, but I didn't remember that for sure. So,
Which May 11th, if you all would be
Right.
more comfortable making a decision about next year's, this sheet, that still should give us
Yeah.
time to get it into Novus
We figured it
and
all
ready
out.
for
Yeah.
that last council meeting of May.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't you think? I'll help you. Well, they haven't voted yet, so hold on.
Yes.
Just real quick, I think the last meeting in May would be May 5th, if we're talking about council meetings,
Oh,
would be
you're
May
right,
15th,
May
because
15th.
we meet the 1st, the 8th, and the 15th.
Yes, and Rochelle just makes a good point. We have an appeal process. So the
Mhm.
agencies have the ability to appeal their
Right.
score
That was
to
the other,
this.
that was the 11th.
This group, that's your May 11th meeting.
Right, and so if it changes, we'll have to deal with that. We'll work on the budget all summer, and so if it changes because of something, we can deal with that. But the staff's had their number to put into the master budget for, because this says the appeal process starts after we meet and occurs the last week of May, correct? Have I got an old sheet?
No, you probably have the one from this year. And that's fine, whatever the makes the committee comfortable, but just want you all to understand that if we miss that, if we don't make if this committee doesn't make a recommendation to the city council in terms of funding for 2019, prior to the proposed budget going to the council that first week of June, Nick will be plugging 407 in there. And that'll, okay, just so we all understand that one.
So what's the pleasure of the committee?
There's a motion on the floor right now. Ms. Ortiz made a motion to defer to the decision
11.
to a future meeting. There was no second
So
that I
is that
recorded.
May 11th? Is that our second
It's already
meeting?
set, and that's what I remember when you.
But that was the appeal meeting, so now we're changing that.
It was not that I understood, but.
That was the appeal meeting, so are we now changing that meeting to the approval of that funding?
Did we set 3 meetings?
Nope.
Yes or no? Because I did not know.
Did we set 3 meetings?
I think I had one for June 1st also.
I thought so. I
Yeah.
thought we set 3
I don't know
meetings.
that I've heard from everybody.
What was June 1st for?
Well, because it
Was that
appeared
the
from the,
appeal?
pardon?
Was that for the appeals?
Well,
The appeal?
my recollection, Cassandra and I obviously had a conversation of scheduling, was that we needed to schedule 2 meetings to deal with these, and that one of them should be the week of the 14th, and one of them should be the week of the 28th, because that's what, and so that this meeting was an introductory meeting to get the process started, so that we were prepared before we needed to hit the ground on
And so
those two.
that really doesn't matter. So what does the committee want to meet on May 11th to approve these numbers?
Yes. I mean, I was.
So that's the second?
Sure.
So those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so motion carried. The next meeting's May 11th to approve these numbers. Okay, is there anything else for us? What else is on the meeting minutes?
I had one other question.
Any other? Yes, any other items?
I wanted to check and see whether the same process that was used for this block grant was recommended or used for the contracted services that were sent out to other departments.
So the contracts for this year were already
Well, for
in the
2019,
works,
obviously.
right. We have not issued an RFP yet for the HCCI contract, but we will be. We'll be using an RFP process, not a grant process.
Okay.
TPD has the Safe Streets and
They got about 4 of them.
KCSL and the Center for Safety and Empowerment. I shared with Chief that the recommendation was for an RFP process for contracts, just like we do with the rest of our contracts. I can't tell you what the police department has determined to do with those. I don't know the answer to that, but we will be requesting proposals for the contract for the counseling that we contract with HCCI for.
And I just wanted to check, because I was on the council when they were all pulled together, and the intent was to get a process that was the same for everybody. And so I just wondered, and so it sounds like then those departments would be responsible actually to make their own budget recommendations, rather than anything that came out of this process before.
Yes, because those are contracts for
Cor-
service
correct.
and not grants.
So that would be up to them to budget whatever they wanted to, and at least at this, as far as this group is concerned, it's up to them what sort of outcomes they would require, documentation, and so on. You've got a model, but there was no corresponding responsibility that went with that transfer on how they would manage it.
Councilmember?
Yes.
Is this something that you can ask them when you meet with them to understand the process?
I
So
could.
these people can go?
I could, I just, because this is just the transition of having them all together to sending them out in terms of our responsibility as the council and the committee, I wanted to be sure what happened, and I think got my answer. Unless there's more.
There was definitely the desire of this committee to make sure that the contracting agencies were held accountable. That was
Okay.
conveyed to the departments that received those contracts. The materials and the quarterly report, they also understand that the quarterly reporting was important to the committee, that stay in place. So they understand that the agencies providing the service will have to continue to provide those outcome reports. This group still has to make a determination how often they want to see that on those contracted services, but there was no formal framework sent with that said you must do this to request proposals or whatever. The police department has received the contracts as well as the quarterly reports, though, for the contracts, the 3 contracts that came over here. So
Okay, because all I could read was the November minutes, at which point the police department there'd not been a conversation with the police department. So that's where my knowledge
Sure.
left off. So just to clarify, then we would continue, who's the grant monitor for those? We would
they're
still.
not grants, they're
On
contracts.
contract monitoring.
So
So,
the department, in the case of, let's take the HCCI contract, Corey and I will be responsible.
Sure.
Because that's our job, to make sure that we're receiving the service that we pay for. I don't know who the police department would assign to that function, but I mean, I guess my response to you is that staff's job is to make sure that we hold our contractors responsible. And I think we all take that very seriously.
so, I mean, this committee hasn't gotten the reports in the past, on the ones that are in this block grant. That's been managed by staff, correct?
I don't
So,
understand the question.
well, whatever the funding reports are in
Yes.
program reports have been handled internally. So we should be expecting then that we need to, we're going to actually get the reports on the ones that go out, but,
The quarterly reporting, that it was clear that the committee wanted that to stay in place. So I think that was measured maybe to give the committee a level of comfort that we would still be checking to make sure that we're getting what we're paying for.
okay.
But a decision was not made by this group on whether or not you wanted to see those quarterly reports.
That's what I was
or-
trying to understand.
Yes. That was not determined last year when we concluded this process. That was still left to be decided.
So that does need to be decided, because it would be different. Okay, thank you.
And if I may, Madam, I think you guys heard that we're not going to vote on any of this. So I do want to continue to have some discussion while I'm here. So I think if you want to leave, you can, because we won't be doing that since the chair said some of you guys might want to leave. I do have a couple of questions as well. The council voted to grandfather some of them in, is that correct?
So,
Or was it the committee that did that?
So the council would have approved that when this funding priority sheet was taken to council. I believe that was the January meeting, as Councilmember Hiller was referring to.
Okay.
And the two that are.
That's what you just handed us? Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am. That sheet that I gave you under about halfway social service grant detail, it says minimum grant amount. And then that asterisk underneath lists Shawnee Medical Society and Positive Connections. And there was discussion at length at the committee last year about those two and why they were grandfathered in at those dollars.
Do you remember what meeting that was? I can have Brenda pull it. And I'll view
It would
that.
have been, we can identify the meeting so you can watch the video.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
We were in the
Or at the
City Hall, so it would have been the appeal meeting last year, I believe. We'll get that date for you.
Okay, if you would, please, that would be great. And then also, I would like to see, or a list of all the applicants that, is that on here? Is that on here?
Yes.
Okay. And then you four would be the people that I would come to talk to regarding the process and how it's changed over the years and what we're doing, is that correct? And who could provide me with any of the grant applications if I wanted to see them all?
You already sent her the link to EC Impact, or? Yeah. So you were sent a link to EC Impact, and it's all on that computer system. We can resend that to you if you'd like,
In a link it was? Okay,
in an email.
okay.
If you have any problems with that, then Rochelle would be your contact
Okay,
for
okay.
learning how to use that system.
Okay. I have some more, but I'll hold them until I talk to you, Sasha. Okay, thank you.
Nothing? Okay, seeing nothing else before the committee, we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.